Sol and Vinny call in their friend Lincoln to help them dispose of Frankie's body. Oh, for goodness sake, would somebody please tell Goldie he doesn't need to gesture on every line? In any case, Bricktop and his boys arrive, and Bricktop uses his reputation to get them to follow him into the next room, where a slaughterhouse is prepared for them. We rejoin Avi and Doug as Avi complains about Doug not being able to find Frankie. One of Doug's daughters suggests they use Bullet-Toothed Tony, finally introducing our last main character. Tony got his name by surviving being shot 6 times at once, having 2 of the bullets cast into gold and putting them where his teeth used to be. Really hard bastard! Mockney bingo! What do I win? Nothing. Fine, I'll just keep going with the review then. We cut to Tony who... Okay, seriously, Guy. Did you have to copy this scene directly from Lock, Stock? There it had some poignancy, because the guy whose head he was crushing had just threatened to knife his son. Here it's just cheap. And you could say you're paying homage to it, but doing an homage to your own bloody shot is a bit incestuous, don't you think? And a car phone? Seriously? It's the year 2000. Who the hell in a populated area still had a car phone? Sol convinces Bricktop that if he lets them go, they'll get him a massive diamond. He gives them 2 days and sends them off before we cut back to Avi. He offers to pay Tony 40 grand to find Frankie, last known location, the bookies. He agrees, and after making a phone call, goes out to question Spud from Train Spotting by driving down the street with his head stuck in a window. Unsurprisingly, he tells them who robbed the bookies. They go off to interrogate Sol, who immediately lets them know it was Boris who killed Frankie and took the stone. Realising that there's no way he can get Mickey to fight, Turkish calls Bricktop. In order to punish the boys for being useless, he sends his boys round to smash up the arcade. And in order to convince Mickey to fight, he burns down the caravan of Mickey's mother, while she's asleep inside of it. Mickey's hopeless fight to try and save her is beautifully moving, with only music in the background. And the look in his eyes when he realises there's no chance is perfect. Tommy arrives in time to save Turkish from being stabbed, and threatens the boys with the gun he knows doesn't work as the same music continues to play in the background. They head to the campsite the next morning and find the cooling remains of the caravan, and Mickey agrees to do the fight to prevent any more death. Back to Avi and the others at Doug's diamond shop, where Tony tells them tracking down Boris will be impossible, which is obviously the moment at which he walks into the store. I guess he didn't know who the diamond was originally intended for. Rosebud, Avi's heavy, says he'll take care of Boris, and we immediately cut to Rosebud bleeding heavily in the back seat and Boris in the boot. They interrogate him and find out the location of the diamond in his house. Sol shows Vinny the blank-firing guns he's got to try and help them get the diamond back. I don't know why they didn't just get more real guns. It was obviously easy enough for them before. In any case, they get a call from Tyrone telling them Boris has come home, but they hang up and head out before he can tell them he's not alone. When they arrive, they realise their only hope is to follow Tony's car and ambush them later to steal the stone. What follows is a very clever interplay between the 3 cars. Turkish and Tommy are heading to Boris's to get a new gun, while Tony, Avi and Rosebud, followed by Sol, Vinny and Tyrone, are heading away. Things start to go wrong when Sol tests his replica in the car, blowing out all the windows and distracting Tyrone, who hits a man standing in the middle of the street. Next we see Tommy throwing Turkish's milk out the window, since he thinks it's bad for him, followed by the sound of a crashing car. And finally we see the milk hit the front of Tony's car, which caused him to crash into a bollard. It's all put together as we see that Boris is able to escape from the boot of Tony's car after the crash, and wanders into the road with a bag on his head. It's him the others hit. Rosebud dies in the crash due to the sword he was looking at, getting impaled in him. Tony and Avi head into a nearby pub to get cleaned up and call for a lift. Turkish and Tommy arrive at Boris's house just before he does. I guess they must have been pretty close by. Well, at least it was established before that he's quite hard to kill. But I've got no idea how Boris is in such good condition after having been hit full force by a car. He grabs an assault rifle and heads back out. Sol and the others run into Avi coming out of the toilets and recognise the case. Boris turns up as well, and the 3 groups are shouting so loudly that Tony hears, and after giving a ridiculously obvious warning, he fires through the wall at head height. Only Boris and Tyrone are hit, while Sol and Vinny escape with the case. Tony ends up unloading an entire clip into Boris and finally killing him. Sol and Vinny drop the dog off at the pawn shop and head to give the diamond to Bricktop, but Tony tracks them down again. They tell him it's at the shop, but when they arrive, the dog has wrecked the back room. Vinny tries to convince them the dog must have eaten it, but when Avi tells Tony to open up the dog to find the diamond, Vinny relents and shows them he had it all along. Avi has a close look at the stone, at which point the dog actually does eat it, which prompts Avi to fire wildly at it. The dog escapes out the window Tony opened, but Tony isn't so lucky. With Tony dead and the stone long gone, Avi returns to New York. Mickey turns up at the fight drunk as a skunk after his mother's wake, but sobers pretty quickly when Bricktop tells him that all the pikeys at the camp will die if he doesn't fall when he's supposed to, leading us into the big fight. And that's all you're getting, I'm afraid. This is a good movie and I refuse to spoil the ending. I know it probably comes across as quite disjointed in this review, but in reality it flows between the different plot segments very well indeed, keeping you interested every step of the way. I've tried not to go into too much detail on funny things or the plot in general, but it's been really difficult because there is no padding in this film at all. There are a few niggles with it, but it's definitely worth a watch, if only for the sound and visuals alone. I will say that the final fight scene between Mickey and his opponent is brilliantly well done, with the visual, sound and music reflecting Mickey's mental state, slowing down and speeding up and becoming barely audible at points. This movie brilliantly balances ridiculously funny black comedy moments with really quite sinister, serious moments. I really would recommend this one if you haven't seen it before. And if you have, go watch it again! I'll see you next week. Gotcha. Von Diesel, come in.
Captain, good to see you again, sir. Have you found the tracer?
Thankfully, yes. I think it's made the rest of it a bit cantankerous, though. How are the repairs coming?
Operator says it's going well, Captain. The Glorious Bastards engine should be online within the next 2 days. The lightning cannon's still giving him some trouble, though.
Don't worry about the cannon. Is everything all right? There's a lot of distortion in the signal.
It's the storm, sir. It's keeping us off the scanners, but it's playing merry hell with our systems. Any sign of the Admiral?
Thankfully, no. Hopefully he's still too busy looking for me to be worried about you lot yet. Look, I gotta go. There can't be too many ether signals coming from around here, and if they're looking...
Understood, sir. Fly safe.
Fly safe, Francisca.